everybody, and welcome back to another Wuthering video. Today we are covering finally the animations for HIYUKI and Denia. That's right, my friends. So a few days ago, Xbox not only announced that the Wuthering Waves is actually going to be available on their platform soon, but also gave us a little teaser of, you know, the ultimate animations or liberation animations of both HIYUKI and Denia. But I wanted to withhold covering it because, to be honest, it was just like 4 seconds, barely anything to really sink our teeth into, and boom, there it is. Xbox swinging in with a big cojones. Not only are they releasing on their platform, but they have a good set of animations, a full minute of exclusive content for us to dive into today, as well as a ton of other news in relation to you know, Kuro Games partnerships, as well as other things that are going on in the Kuro Games you know, Wuthering Waves space. So, you know, today's gonna be a little bit of a news roundup of sorts. You know, I'm really glad that I waited you know, to react to these animations, because I mean, dude, these characters are so exciting, man. But you know, before we get to that, of course, we will be looking at you know, around sometime this week, you know, we will be doing the rest of the side stories that are part of the current 3.2 update. You know, the Sigrika, you know, quest is over, but we still have Lene, Luke, we have Lucilla, Mornier, and then of course one more mysterious character. So we got a lot of stuff, you know, to cover in this regard. So let's make sure we get to do that, you know, all during this week. But you know, things have been pretty busy. But hey, let's just get started and let's take a look at these wonderful animation. Xbox presents. Oh, she's so cool. Did she always have the flowers there? I didn't realize. Oh yeah, look at that.
Let there be snow.
Nice. Okay, we got a liberation. Cool. Got some aerial combat as well. Nice. We've been really into that for Lahai-Roi. What else we got? What else we got? Oh, she got kind of a form change. She's no longer having like she kind of becomes like ethereal here. Oh, and this is what we saw in the Xbox in better quality though. Nice. Okay, not bad. Finally, dude, someone Glacio. All right, but now we got our fusion, our sussy baka. Oh my goodness, of course.
Forgive me.
Oh shoot, she got an emo side.
Ashes to ashes.
Ooh. Oh, I'm just a girl. I would never do anything bad. Okay, awesome. So we gotta let it pick through. I think we'll start with the HIYUKI first. Surprisingly enough, I would say I have slightly less to say about you know, in regards to HIYUKI. I mean, first off, model quality. Ooh, top a tier, man. This is our new Glacio character, and I mean, there it is. All these video games with their silly backstuff. But I think one of the coolest things that we get to see here off rip is that you know, these are just cool things that they're adding into the animation. The reality is it doesn't make you know, a ton of stuff, but wow, look at the effects and stuff look great. But she actually does pull out the bow, and if you remember that from her drip marketing, you know, I can actually pull it up on screen. I might as well, you know, I didn't prepare you know, this segment of the whatnot, but let's go to Wuthering Waves here. Boom. All right, and then she does actually have a bow, or one of her forms is wielding a bow. Are we gonna see the bat? Come on, Kuro. Let's see the bat. Come on. I'm just saying, you know, baseballer HIYUKI up for the grand slam. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, no, this is really cool. You know, it's you know, Wuthering Waves being set in, you know, a more modern you know, a more modern sci-fi situation. You know, the likelihood of someone actually wielding a bow is pretty low. You know, we have like Yuno, but she's got like the crazy bow contraption and not really you know, like a real like standard bow. You know, some enemies have it too here and there, but still, it's like getting to see this in characters is really fun. And having this range of animation as well is actually huge, because range can play a big part in gameplay. You know, it's not like you're going to be using this attack specifically to get that stuff done. I think this is just part of the basic attack situation. And then we have the liberation itself. Yeah, and so everyone kind of suspected that HIYUKI would have some sort of form chain. She has like the red ribbon you know, like falling away, and we talked about you know, you know, there's a concept for this that's like proper, and then but then also like Demon Slayer, it's like kind of the easiest way to describe it. It's like her abilities are sort of a parallel to Chisa's, and finding like the opening thread situation. It's kind of cool that we have this, like, you know, red ribbon, you know, the very subtle red highlights. You know, HIYUKI is literally like majority of her clothes are all white, and you know, now we see her enter this like liberation in pure form where she's really just like all white, and I think that's really cool. She even has like some very subtle red after effects, and I think that's a lot of fun to try you know, and describe what this character is all about. I do wonder, because you know, unfortunately this is 144p, but it is Twitter, so it's kind of compressed. I do wonder if some of these after images that she's constantly showing is going to be similar you know, to what she has when she has these 9 other people, you know, kind of like talking to her herself in her head. But man, this looks really cool that she has, like, you know, even if it's not that much of a change, it's more blue, just some blue on top of her standard fit. It is pretty nice. And then we of course have the ending forte circuit, so she spawns in a tree branch, and then she you know, so it puts in the sword and boom, it goes away. And now we have a second liberation, same thing, and now she transforms back. Top 2, the Sakura petals bloom. Super duper nice stuff. They gave her a lot of time, but she's got a super cool kit. I can't wait to have finally another Glacio character in Wuthering movies. Let's move on to Denia. Yeah, so they gave her way less time, and I suspect as much because they want to not spoil too much about Denia, because as we all know, Denia is a sussy baka. You ask her in the quest, she's like, hey, who are you? And then she's like, what are you talking about? What? Huh? You know? And I mean, as it stands, I mean, it makes sense, man, because like, look at this stuff. First off, wonderful animations using, you know, despite being a fusion character, you know, these quote unquote elements or attributes don't actually matter because they are scientific concepts, not the concept of, you know, the power of fire. It is the chromatic foam you know, set that she most likely is going to be using. So we literally get like one basic attack, and then we see the Kirigamis flying away, and then we literally that's literally Aleph-1 in the background. So most likely, and I will say this now, most likely Denia might be a Thernodian's resonator, which is not unfortunate. I think that's okay. I just do hope that she's not too much to be written to be sympathetic, because I don't know. I mean, she's kind of not nice in the Sigrika quest, so I'm just like, I don't know if you're a good person. I mean, shoot, I'll pull for you, but nah, you're kind of mean. She still could be tied into the Fraxis somehow, especially with these gloves. You know, the red gloves and the ring on the finger symbolize something quite important. But yeah, she reaches out to her dark self, and then, you know, the Hands of the Void, and this is actually very interesting because it's very similar in the idea of art, not the gameplay, of Hecate, where Hecate has these big clawed grabby hands with eyeballs and stuff. It's very interesting to see that Frolova's imagery is kind of coming out in here. Of course, you know, she's a very different character, but you know, this kind of comes through, and this also does point to my theory, just like a side tangent thing, but like, Frolova was probably supposed to be the person who was in charge here, but of course, you know, she's dead now, so you know, she can't do anything in here anymore. So now a new Fraxis has stepped up to the plate, and you know, going through the rest of it, look at that, big claws, the giant black hole explosion. Oh, and this one, the voice acting, wonderful. So once again, 2 liberation animations. I don't think that was a forte circuit. That might have just been a skill, but dude, the animation level and 3D modeling on this stuff is so cool. We also see her signature weapon there. I don't really care about signature weapons. It looks weird. But this right here, it literally, there's one thing to like draw a tacit mark on the ground and then just like, oh, that, you know, that looks kind of cool, right? And then this one, like, they got the model detail to the point where it's like eating a hole in the world, and I'm like, that's so cool. And of course, you know, there are no confirmations, so, you know, don't put any stock in this, but like, when it's called chromatic foam, and her superpower is that she has bubbles that can protect you from the Thernodian, it's like, okay, it's like sea foam, right? And that's kind of what she's showing. So it's like, I don't think it should be a surprise that the set that already exists in game for like the last 3 months is going to be for Denia. And of course, I mean, we'll have to see what stats actually come out in that regard, but yeah, I mean, this is gonna be her. So HIYUKI is something different entirely because we haven't had Glacio for literally a year, but I think Denia is kind of set for the course, and we can even see some standard animation techniques that Wuthering Waves uses when you have a buff. They usually spawn in some cute little like you know, thing over here. Like for example, if you have a Chang-Li buff, you have a little pendant over here. All the characters kind of do this, and it's an interesting visual flair to the game. But specifically for Denia, you know, this is her little cosmic cube, I'll call it. You know, it's probably going to be buffing your fusion burst damage, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, no, great animations, and like these are just so cool. I think I surprisingly enough though, Hiyuki's really cool. Like she got aura, bruh. But like I'm kind of more interested in Denia, probably just because we didn't get as much, you know, because obviously they're trying to keep us away from spoilers and whatnot. But hopefully she's a really interesting character, you know, because Hiyuki also has a lot of stuff, you know, to kind of talk about. But yeah, no, this is really cool. I'm so silly. I'm not the Thernodian. What are you talking about? But yeah, that's the news from there. And there's actually little tidbits, you know, that we can talk about as well. There's some other posts here. I think I'll cover these on stream instead. But we got the space truck collected. Did someone post the meme? Oh, nobody posted the meme. Okay, they put a red circle around Hiyuki, and it's like, who are you? Bro thinks she's part of the team. But it's cool that she seems to be she's part of the Space Truck Collective, at least in some form. And we know, and we're gonna find out what that means because Lucilla's gonna see her. You know, in the next like the next 5 days ish, when the banners rotate around. But then we also have Space Truck Collective Star Forge Academy, which is all the students, and of course these two are included, which is interesting. But yeah, then in terms of the news, we did get a little bit of dialogue from the upcoming quest. Maybe it's the quest that comes out in 5 days, or maybe it's the quest that comes out next patch. But we do have some interesting things to glean, you know, from the voice acting and whatnot. So first,
no matter what we say, the choice still has to be yours.
So that was interesting because it's like that could be female Rover, that could be Hiyuki. You know, we've heard little bits of, you know, Hiyuki's voice and whatnot, but no matter what we say, you know, is interesting because Hiyuki clearly seems to operate as, you know, some sort of like collective situation, and that's really interesting. And this one, another one.
How far can memory type resonators go before?
Yeah, and this one's also interesting too. It's like I can't really put my name on the voice, but it's definitely not any of the characters that we have. It could be Denia, but specifically this sentence right here: the opposite of the void. How far can memory type resonators go before it consumes them?
Resonators go before its power.
This is super duper important because if you don't know, resonators have classifications, and these are more biological classifications, to be fair. Memory type resonators is I believe a little bit of a newer term, but when it comes to this, there is natural resonators, mutant resonators, and artificial resonators, and those are the 3 classifications we've been working on since like the beta. But when it comes to that, you know, like natural means like you were awakened normally, you know, like, you know, you have some weird things here and there. Mutant resonators are still kind of normal resonators, but they have a significant degree of mutation. You know, for example, like Ling Yang is very close to like actually like being a lion. In fact, he was a lion, you know, before they made the changes to make him a little more human. And then of course lastly we have artificial resonators, you know, being like you know, Shorekeeper being someone who is literally built you know, from something else to become a resonator, which is near. And now we have this new one, memory type resonators, and I do wonder what this means. It could mean a lot of things because not only are the Fraxis clearly literally making up resonators as they go. I mean, rest in peace Advidius, bro. But it could be interesting to see that maybe Denia or the fact that Imeth, you know, has pushed herself so far. You know, they made a new classification of resonators that can be made up of like, you know, purely just like memory, instead of you know, rebuilding, you know, being built up naturally by the world's phenomenons, that you just like you insert like basically like a hard drive and then boom, a resonator pops out. Like that could be a huge development for the story. You know, and there's some other dialogue you know, in here, but in general, like it's really exciting to see where the story possibly could come, you know, otherwise. But of course Xbox, so hey, if you have an Xbox, be sure to download Wuthering Waves when it comes out in July. I mean, it's super exciting to see these games finally come out on more and more platforms, because, you know, for the longest time it's been PlayStation, mobile, and then PC, and like that's it. And like there's other consoles, man. Hey, Wuthering Waves, if you optimize your game a little bit, we can get this on the Switch. I'm just saying. Yes, but then the last piece of news, and of course, so don't put too much stock into this. It's been passed around that this news piece that I'm about to talk about is possibly fake, you know, or like made up, but I still think it's worth talking about in general because it's really interesting. So reading the title here, Kuro Games and Liu Xin, the author of the 3-Body Problem, have announced a strategic partnership where Liu Xin will serve as a world building consultant for Wuthering Waves. Now, of course, there's the main article. You can go ahead and read it. You know, I can't read Chinese, but people are like, oh, this is fake. Oh, they didn't mention this. Oh, they didn't mention this. But I think it's still worth talking about, because it is very interesting, you know, understanding what is the general idea behind the three-body problem before, you know, and then why this author specifically might be talking, you know, to Solon or just Kuro games in general. Because I mean, hey, look, he's right there. So even if there's no partnership, or it's just like they're talking, right? And that's kind of how these things work. I think it's important to remember that, like, yes, we don't know the ins and outs of the business and stuff, but like, if you want a great example of sometimes how big industry heads work when they have big creatives and whatnot, is that sometimes they just talk and then suddenly it happens, right? Super Smash Brothers, like my roots when it comes to gaming and community, is a game that was made because the guys said they felt like it, and then like when it came to the third installment of the series being Brawl, Iwata for Nintendo, he brought Sakurai in after, like, during a business trip, and he's like, hey, I want to make Super Smash Brothers for the Wii. And then you know, semantics, but they said like, yeah, let's do it. And we continue to have like the greatest franchise of all time, selling like, you know, well over 10 million copies to this day. It's like, yes, these things are obviously organized when they come through, but when it comes to the parley of or ideas coming around, it's still possible that, like, even if they're just talking friendly, like, you know, these people who work at Kuro Games and these authors who write really interesting stories could still give, you know, some ideas, right? You get ideas from anywhere, really. But the kind of important thing to talk about here is that, so to give a summary of the three-body problem, and, you know, spoilers if you want to read it for yourself, but this is like on the book spine. So like, you can, if you ever pick up this book or watch the TV show, like, you're gonna see it there basically. But yeah, I'll go ahead and read it out. It's like this one sentence, you know, for it. But following an astrophysicist, Yi Yuanji, who was disillusioned by humanity during China's Cultural Revolution, invites an alien civilization to invade Earth. And that is super duper interesting because, you know, once again, even if they're not actually helping each other, who cares? I think a lot of parallels to this when it comes to how the Rover story is going, and of course this 3.1 stuff, but Rover being sent down to aid Solaris's, you know, humans, and it's just been an endless journey of a mission that seems impossible, because you can try everything. The Theronian just doesn't die. It's going to stay there forever, and it'll always be a problem, you know, for the people in this universe. And slowly, you know, Rover, before, you know, a little more serious, you know, Rover's getting better these days, but also Rover's getting worn down, you know, even to the point where during, you know, the patch of 3.1, when he's talking to Luke, he's just like, I don't care about talking about, like, you know, nice stuff. Like, let's just get to business. Like, you know, he's depressed. Like, the Rover's depressed, man. And this will not happen, but like, you know, there's a lot of things to talk about Rover's homeland and the future of, you know, Wuthering Waves once they complete their plot line on Solaris 3. But it's like, one day, okay, if Rover could contact home again, what if it brings an invasion of Rover's people? And that would be a really interesting plot line to do 7 years down the line with Wuthering Waves. But yeah, I think this is really cool. And of course, you know, people are reasonably skeptic. Other video games in the same gacha space have had consultants, and, you know, they didn't listen to consultants at all. Like, they just like said like, oh yeah, like, this is a great writer, so like, ergo it must be good. And, you know, I think the thing is only going to go so far as, like, you know, this is like if you tell your friend who's writing a story, it's like, oh, I have an idea, like, and, you know, like, you should share it, right? And it's up to the writer to kind of make that happen. So I can completely understand why people are very skeptical, you know, about the thing. It's like, oh, the news is actually possibly fake. Oh, there's no mention of a partnership and whatever. But I still think it's very interesting to talk about, you know, because I'm not the type of person that reads, but after reading the synopsis and stuff, I'm like, oh, this might be an interesting book, you know. And I think that's pretty cool. You know, especially because Wuthering Waves is, you know, right now sitting in like their space era. We're really diving into the depths and the concepts of space before we sit back down in the new Federation and have more ground down to earth stories. You know, for lack of a better pun. But yes, this is all really interesting stuff that's happening in the world of Wuthering Waves at this moment. So yeah, we have so much you know, to look at. Like, we have all this stuff that's going on. Of course, these were also revealed, but guys, pretend to be surprised. She's Glacio and a sword. I would have never guessed. Guys, she's Fusion and a rectifier. I would have never guessed. Or what are you telling me, that Denia is not a gauntlet character? Come on now. But yeah, this is the quick you know, news roundup for everything that's happened in Wuthering Waves in the past, like, I want to say 1.5 weeks. It's a lot of stuff, and I've been waiting you know, for this animation to finally come out so we can really talk about what's going on. Oh, Xbox, I love Wuthering Waves, dude. I love Werther's. That's my favorite candy. But yes, that's gonna be it for this video. You know, a little bit longer, but you know, to kind of catch everybody up and see you know, what's going on in the wonderful world of Wuthering Waves. We got all kinds of stuff happening out here, but be sure to check out all the other stuff we do on this channel. Of course, like I said, we will be doing the side stories this week. You know, so just keep your eyes peeled for the stream. Be sure to leave links, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss it, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.